2. You ready?
Somebody make some noise in this joint.
KBLA Talk 1580 celebrates its 4th anniversary this year on Juneteenth.
Here we go again.
Hard to believe 4 years has gone by so fast.
Oh my God.
But here we are, still standing, still loving and serving our people as best we can.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
To celebrate our 4th anniversary, we have 4 big events, and you're invited to all of them.
She got a lot to say.
Let's do this.
Let's get it on.
On Wednesday, June 18th, we go live on C-SPAN for the 2nd consecutive year with our Climate Justice plus Black Health Symposium. Tavis Smiley will moderate an all-star panel of thinkers and influencers as we continue our vitally important climate justice work.
Hey, Tavis Smiley, talk about.
On Thursday, June 19th, you're invited to join us as we celebrate Juneteenth and our 4th anniversary. There'll be plenty of food, fun, great music, good vibes, and all of your favorite KBLA Talk 1580 hosts will be there.
Yeah, man.
Flip the beat. On Saturday, June 21st, there are 2 big events you're invited to attend.
I can't wait to hear it.
This year, KBLA Talk 1580 continues its annual partnership with the Empowerment Congress for a community celebration and dialogue to educate, engage, and empower. This year's theme is Resilience in the Face of Chaos.
Can't wait to see what's up next.
Y'all ain't ready for this.
And new this year is our State of Black Women in Los Angeles Symposium, moderated by Dominique DiPrima, with a luncheon to follow. Dominique will be leading a dialogue with some of the most impactful Black women leaders in Los Angeles, and you're invited to join.
This is it.
All of these events are free, but seating is limited, so you must register in advance at our KBLA1580.com website, where you can find all the details you need about each event.
Check it out.
It's our 4th anniversary, and we would love to celebrate it with you.
I love you guys so much. There's nothing you can do about it.
We're KBLA Talk 1580.
The only black talk radio station west of the Mississippi.
Thank you for having our black.
Happy anniversary, KBLA!
Love you. Love you.
Oh yeah, I get around. Still clown with the underground when we come around. Stronger than ever. Back to get wrecked. All respect to those who break their neck to keep their check, cause though they sweat a brother majorly. And I don't know why your girl keeps paging me. She tell me that she needs me, cries when she leaves me, and every time she sees me, she squeeze me. Lady, take it easy. Hate to sound sleazy, but tease me. I don't want it if it's that easy. Hey yo, bust it. Baby got a problem saying bye-bye. Just another hazard of a fly guy. Your ass wide don't matter. My pockets got fatter. Now everybody's looking for the ladder. And ain't no need in being greedy. If you wanna see me, try to keep a number, baby, when you need me. And I'll be there in a jiffy. Don't be picky, just be happy with this quickie. But when you learn, you can't time it down, baby, doll. Check it out. I get around. What you mean you don't know? Check it go. I get around. Thugs around, just don't stop for me.
KBLA Talk 1580. Happy birthday, Tupac. Happy heavenly birthday. Rest in peace. I Get Around. It's kind of a bit of a theme song for our Messy Mondays, so to speak. And we're being joined by Captain Tyrone Davis. He's a veteran in the Southern California health and wellness space. He's a 5-time triathlete, competed in multiple 100-mile cycling races, certified meditation, yoga, and spin instructor. And he also does some mindset work with folks, a lot of mindset work, workshops and yoga and meditation, but also some special convenings for Black men. Captain Tyrone Davis, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming in. When we talk about well-being, and that's mind, body, and spirit, right? They're not
Absolutely.
separate from each other.
Absolutely. And the challenge is many people tend to focus on the body.
Yeah.
And that's the least of, in my opinion, the least of the 3 factors.
You say it's the least of the 3 as a repeat triathlete, which is hilarious.
Well, you have to get your mind right first, you know,
Yeah.
because I truly believe that anything you want to do, you can do.
anything you want to do, you can do.
Yes, I believe that. Choices, right? Because just like people who want to lose weight, you can lose weight. You just have to make a choice and then put a plan together and execute.
I mean, in the case of losing weight, you have to put a plan together and then execute every day.
Exactly. Consistency.
Yeah.
That's part of the plan, right?
I guess. And you came in for our Wealth Building Wednesday because you have a company called Lifeholik
Right.
that helps people get themselves together, mind, body, and spirit. We got to talking a little bit off the mic about what it means to really, get your mind together. And we thought, well, maybe it would be interesting to have a conversation on Messy Monday, where we talk about situationships and all the configurations of things that people get themselves into in the name of love, romance, and sex.
Right.
One of the reasons for that is because you do a thing called Man Talk. What is that?
Man Talk is we just concluded our last one last Friday, and what it was a 3-part series of workshops that focused on men and communication, and it came about because I have quite a few conversations with friends of mine, and I call them drive-by conversations, drive-by in that they're short but impactful, and we open up to some degree, but I see, hear, and feel that there's a desire to be more vulnerable, but there's a lot of hesitation. And I think that's because they don't feel safe, right? So what I chose to do with Man Talk is to create a safe space for men to be vulnerable and communicate, because I think there's a lot of healing and a lot of growth that can be done once we get beyond our fears.
And when you say vulnerable, a lot of men they're just not here for that because it's not considered masculine or tough or manly?
I believe so. I think that in our culture, that manly is to not show emotion, if you will. Like we were not only taught to ignore emotion, we were taught to actively suppress emotions. Man up. Don't you cry, boy.
Yeah.
From the time we're children, right? And those emotions don't go anywhere. They stay with you until they're addressed. And if they're never addressed, they stay with you just like if you had a sore, a physical wound that was untreated. It gets infected and you get a keloid form and it becomes a part of who we are. So it is with emotional wounds and trauma that has happened in childhood. It stays with us and it becomes a part of our being until we make a choice to get some intervention. And also we have many of us have the hero complex, like I'm gonna handle it on my own. Like you get extra points by, fighting through things,
Right.
and I'm trying to get people to stop struggling, because a lot of people define themselves by their struggle and they let their struggle be their story instead of rewriting the narrative so they can be the victor.
Yeah. Now you sound like Sahara Ali, who does our Mindful Mondays. She's always talking about how people get trapped in their pain body, as she calls it, which is letting the struggle be the story. It's another way of saying letting your struggle be your story and getting into a victim rather than a victor mentality.
Absolutely. So one of the things I do, I am a person that tried very hard to stay out of victimhood, because when people operate with a victim spirit, they'll always be in a defensive posture and they'll never elevate, right? So one of my core values is personal accountability and responsibility. Everything that happens to me, I take a step back, take a yoga breath, a tactical pause, if you will, and get over my emotions, get my emotions in check, and then I'll assess it to see what my part in it was in the outcome of this situation, because the more I take responsibility for my part of the situation, the less I'm likely to become a resident in victimhood.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. That was my pledge to myself, starting a new radio show. Okay, we're going to total accountability. Whatever happens in this place, this place being First Things First with Dominique DiPrima,
Right.
The buck stops with me.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is on the show.
Right.
But there's also a part, where's the part of holding others accountable in that?
Well, thank you for asking that. That's very big to me. I think we have to hold others accountable. However, we can't make people do anything they don't choose to do, right? So, for example, I have some situations going on, and I personally reached out to a few people who I considered, in my circle to support me. And I was pretty clear in what I needed, and they didn't show up, right? I was in my feelings for a bit, and then I had to reflect, and I say, what was my part in that? And my part in that was that I had an expectation that they probably couldn't meet, right? So, and holding them accountable is to have a conversation for me. I'll have a conversation to let them know how our interaction impacted me, right? And depending on their response to this conversation, that will determine how I manage my expectations moving forward, because that's what I can control. So now I don't have the same expectation of that person. Now, I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, mind you, because they're still good people. They're just not able to support me in that particular fashion.
So when it comes to relationships, romance, sex, love, situationships, which is a lot of what we end up talking about, on Messy Monday, expectations are a huge part of it, right?
Right. I think it's unrealistic to say have no expectations. One of my friends, she says, if you have no expectations, you'll never have any disappointments. I think that's cute, but it's unrealistic. And I think we need to be clear and have adult conversations. The problem is a lot of people avoid conversations because of the potential outcome, right? And what they're doing is marinating in the negative possibility instead of communicating and creating positive probabilities. Because if we're contemplating going out or what have you, I need to have a conversation with you and let you know what my intentions are, and vice versa. You need to let me know. It's a business meeting, if you will.
Sounds so unromantic.
Okay, but it's effective.
Because Captain Davis said, okay, and I care zero about that.
Well, no. Okay, let me back up. Okay, see, that's one of the things that I get sometimes is that I'm nonchalant and
too cut and dry.
Well, but I try to expound, and I've actually continue to work on that,
So you ask someone out or they ask you out, and then you have a business meeting about what your
absolutely not.
are.
See, you create that story. No, not at all.
I'm just trying to understand.
No, and I appreciate you asking clarifying questions, and that's what we don't do in relationships. We don't ask clarifying questions. We operate on assumption, know, and one of the things that is a hallmark of effective communication is just to operate on communication instead of speculation. But when people speculate, there tends to be like a safety net. They'll write a story of what this is supposed to look like and what have you. And they're influenced by other things depending on who they are, and especially social media. You got everybody, if they got a platform, they're a subject matter expert now. But the deal is I'd rather communicate so I know instead of speculate. So I don't, because all I can operate on is what you tell me. And that may or may not be true, but love is a risk. I don't think there's any guarantees in life other than taxes and death and life.
We're talking with Captain Tyrone Davis. You're welcome in 800-920-1580. It is a messy Monday. We are talking about relationships. Not that they have to be messy, but we typically follow up the last Monday of the month with Black Marriage Monday. So it's a 1-2 punch. And so you'll get that next week. Right now, we're on Messy Monday. 800-920-1580. I'm Dominique DiPrima for KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
LA's newest soul food restaurant is getting spectacular reviews.
Great place with amazing food. The Sunday champagne brunch is fabulous. I saw the place on IG. We tried it for lunch. We were blown away by the food and the service. The restaurant has an inviting atmosphere and a dynamic vibe.
Over the years, Lionel has catered most major Black events in Los Angeles, including all of our KBLA Talk 1580 gatherings. But now he has his own spot Lionel's Soul Food Cuisine, and you need to check it out at 8501 South Vermont Avenue in Los Angeles. Oxtails, baked or fried chicken, meatloaf, turkey chops, pork chops, catfish, short ribs, and all the fixins. Collard greens, mac and cheese, yams, red beans, black-eyed peas, and more. And of course, hot water cornbread, satisfying drinks, and delicious desserts. Lionel's is a great place for brunch, lunch, or dinner. If it's good enough for us, it's good enough for you, because we've got your black. So, head on over to Lionel's Soul Food Cuisine at 8501 South Vermont Avenue in Los Angeles and tell Lionel you heard about it on KBLA Talk 1580.
Thanks for starting your morning off with a voice that speaks truth to power and the powerless, getting to the heart of what matters most in our community. This is where authentic conversation meets real action. From breaking news and politics to culture and community solutions, this is where you hear perspectives you won't hear anywhere else. This is where we come together, get informed, and make change happen. You're inside First Things First with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Good morning, sunshine. You make my day.
Is reviewing life insurance on your to-do list? Now's the perfect time to add it. A friend recently told me that securing life insurance sooner rather than later can help you lock in lower rates for years to come. So I bumped this up on my list and got it done. I called SelectQuote and couldn't believe how easy and affordable life insurance is. I'm 40 and got a $500,000 policy for $16 a month. My husband's also 40 and his $500,000 policy was only $18 a month. Plus, with SelectQuote's same-day coverage, there was no medical exam required, and we were covered by the time we hung up. Knowing I have this checked off my list feels amazing, but the peace of mind knowing my family is protected feels even better.
Call SelectQuote at 1-800-729-7070. That's 1-800-729-7070. Or go to SelectQuote.com to get your free quote today. That's 1-800-729-7070. Details on example rate at SelectQuote.com.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's a messy Monday, and it also happens to be Tupac's birthday. Captain Tyrone Davis is with us. He's a founder of Lifeholik, which is more than just fitness. It's fit, mind, body, spirit, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Life coaching, all that good stuff. You guys are going whitewater rafting?
Yes, ma'am. We've, for the last 6 years or so, we've taken groups to Kern River, and
Where's Kern River?
In Kernville. It's about an hour to an hour and a half.
Okay.
Beyond Bakersfield.
Okay.
And it's in the mountains. It's beautiful too. I mean, at night when the sun goes down and it's really dark, you feel like you can touch the stars, and you hear a creek right by the campground. And we're in tents though. We're not glamping.
Yeah, no glamping. You already said that.
No.
Only real.
Yeah, we're just doing it. We're getting in touch with nature.
Okay. But if people want to go, they can reach out to you? Absolutely.
If you're interested, you can go to our website at Lifeholik with a K. There's no C. LIFEAHOLIK.com. And it's the whitewater rafting. It has all the details there. If you have questions, you can reach us.
I bet you learn a lot about yourself there.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, so we're talking relationships, and we left off with you speaking on your style of communication and assumptions.
Right.
What did you say? Communication versus speculation.
Right.
I know there's a lot of assuming that goes on in relationships.
Right.
Even the relationships that aren't relationships, where you've just barely started dating or you've just met someone. But you said this idea of no expectations sounds good on paper, but it's not realistic.
Right. I think early on, the sooner you can, within reason, the sooner that you can have adult conversation, be transparent, and be as authentic as possible, the less likelihood you have of ambiguity and misunderstandings, because you knew.
So you're saying those expectations have to be based on communication rather than speculation?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that because your expectations may be different from mine.
Right.
But we don't know that until we talk about it. How do you feel about kids? How do you feel about, what is your favorite thing? How is love expressed to you? How do you receive love? You know, and how do you give love? Because people have, I think we're all made up of the 3 E's, exposure, environment, and experiences, right? And all those things definitely impact who we are as people. If I came from a broken home, or if I came from a situation where there was some abuse of some type going on, and someone else came from a beautiful Huxtable-style nuclear family, we might have some differences in expectations, you know. So I think it's important for us to have conversations about those things so we can manage them, because sometimes there's some things that I don't want to deal with, and there's some things that you may not want to deal with.
Deal breakers.
Deal breakers.
But a lot of times when, okay, now I'm speaking from my own experience and the experience of my girlfriends, and yes, we do a lot of speculating, I admit. You know.
Thank you for that admission.
I admit
that's
that.
different.
Girl, he might have been, he said this, but he might have meant that. He did this, but maybe it means this.
Right.
And we got a whole story going on.
Right.
But I think a lot of times when I hear men say, you shouldn't have expectations, or I don't have expectations, it really means commitment. They don't want to nail things down, it seems, and say this is a situationship, or you're my girlfriend, or we're dating, because they don't want the commitment that goes with that expectation.
Right. So you just said yourself, a man will tell you a certain thing and you'll rewrite the story, right?
Yeah, that does happen.
That happens quite a bit.
Yes.
Right. And what that is to me is it's a victim mindset, because it places all the onus on the other person. However, just know this, like I said, I believe in personal accountability, responsibility. You have a part in it too, right? And what you allow is what will continue. If you want X, Y, and Z, and you're not getting X, Y, and Z, then you have a choice to make, right? If the person told you up front, now, like I said, love is a risk. Relationships are a risk, right? There's no guarantees in relationship. You know, and this is why, like we talked about accountability, you said about my friends and whatnot, and accountability is, I believe in talking to people, because it's unfair to hold people accountable for information that they don't have. Okay. Someone once told me that I was doing X, Y, Z, and the other. Someone very close to me actually told me I was doing this and that and the other, because I went and asked them. I said, because I wanted to be better on my journey, personal journey. And I said, I want to see what I can do to enhance our friendship or relationship. And the person said, well, you do this, that, and the other. You kind of selfish or inconsiderate. And I was like blown away, because I've known this person all my life, like literally. And when the person said that, and also that person is like non-confrontational, so he withheld that information forever. And I asked, hey, in the future, can you do me a favor and tell me if I'm doing something that doesn't agree with you or that you don't like? Because it's unfair to hold me accountable for information that I don't have. And so it is with relationships. You understand what I mean? And you know, a lot of times we know instinctively or directly, but we choose to ignore the flags that are there for whatever reason, you know.
Example, what kind of flags are you talking about? A wedding ring?
Yeah, that's pretty clear. And sometimes people will tell you straight up, you know, and you have a choice to make.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, you choose to engage in that.
Sometimes they do, but sometimes they specifically don't. Many times, I think that's how people end up in situationships. Those people, not always, because people are grown and they're going to make the choices that they make.
Absolutely.
But a lot of times people misrepresent who and what they are.
Absolutely, and that is the inherent risk in relationship, whether it be romantic relationship or otherwise. All I can deal with is what you give me, right? However, I have to have, I guess, some intuition, if you will, because you're right. Some people are better at playing roles than others. You know, people show up with their representative. So there's no guarantee. So for me, the best thing I can do is the best me for me, because by default, if I'm the best me for me, I'm the best me for we, right? I'm going to give you the best version of myself. And my hope is that you would do the same. And then we'll be winning until we're not. And then we would sit down.
No, we're not. But that even happens in marriage. I mean, you say the risk of relationship is that people misrepresent themselves. They lie.
Mm-hmm.
People
Absolutely.
lie, not just men, not just
Right.
women. People
Right.
lie.
People, right.
However, I mean, you could be all the way married and committed, and still there's no guarantee.
Absolutely. There is no guarantee. The only guarantee is uncertainty, right? And you want to communicate to try to minimize the uncertainty that does exist. I mean, there really is no, and when you decide to engage with someone in relationship, all you know is what they've told you or what they've shown you, and you haven't seen them in every situation.
No.
You learn things by how they respond to a certain movie.
So you got to stress test people? Is that what you're saying? You got to stress before a test drive?
Yeah. I mean, you won't know. And so I don't put a lot of stock in that, actually. I trust my intuition and my conversation. I mean, because it's a vibe to some degree. Like, you can feel whether somebody's on some foolishness or not, and I don't
Most of the time, yeah, most of the time.
Okay.
So what are your rules of communication? Do you have rules of communication to make things better or to avoid the assumption trap?
Yeah, communicate. Communicate instead of speculate. People speculate because, like you said, excuse me, like you said, we tend to write our own story. But I believe oftentimes we write our own story to make ourselves the victim so that we don't have to engage in uncomfortable conversation. But what I'm encouraging people to do, particularly men, is to find a way to engage in conversation so you can get the information you need you'll be empowered to make an informed decision to be the victor instead of the victim who operates on speculation.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's an aspect of being a victim that means you don't have responsibility, right? Something was just done to you rather than you participating in a thing.
Absolutely. And I believe that we are participants in all things to some degree, and it doesn't have to be tangible, if you will. Sometimes we gave it too much energy. Sometimes we had too much faith. Sometimes we were too naive. But for me, that's what I say. I look at what I could have done differently, because with that mindset, I figure I never lose. I either win or I learn, right? Which is ultimately a win-win.
Yeah, we're up against news, traffic, and sports, so we'll address this on the other side. But when you talk about this idea of men and vulnerability and the training that men have not to be vulnerable, which often means transparent, how do we get to real conversation? We'll look at that after news, traffic, and sports. We're talking with Captain Tyrone Davis and you on a messy Monday, KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
I'm Alexandria Ikamoni with BIN News Now. After what's being described as the biggest and most intense manhunt in the history of the state, federal agents, state and local police in Minnesota captured a suspect in a political assassination over the weekend. Vance Bolter is accused of shooting and killing state lawmaker Melissa Hortman and her husband, and is also accused of shooting and injuring Democratic Senator John Hoffman and his wife.
There's no question that this is the largest manhunt in the state's history. Now begins the hard work of looking at what the motive is, looking at putting this case together.
More than 500 arrests have been made in Los Angeles in connection with anti-immigration crackdown protests over the course of just a week. The department also noted that a dozen LAPD officers have been injured as well. Israel says Iran has launched about 350 ballistic missiles at the country since Friday. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Fans going to Dodger Stadium tonight to see the Dodgers in San Diego will see something they have not seen in almost 2 years. Shohei Ohtani will be the Dodgers starting pitcher. Ohtani, a two-time MVP with the Angels, is making his first pitching appearance since August 23, 2023. Ohtani was prevented from pitching while recovering from major shoulder surgery in the fall of 2023. The Dodgers beat San Francisco Sunday 5-4. Ohtani was 3 for 3 at the plate and scored 2 runs. The Angels were swept in their 3-game series at Baltimore Baltimore, they lost 11-2 on Sunday. The Angels start a 4-game series tonight in New York against the Yankees. The NBA Finals resume tonight with Game 5 in Oklahoma City. OKC and the Indiana Pacers are tied at 2-2 in the best of 7. TV ratings for the NBA Finals are down 20% from last year after 4 games. Tip-off time tonight is 5:30 on ABC. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
The doctor's office that accidentally mixed up your files has your social security number. The power company that mistakenly cut your service has your payment info. And the hotel that lost your reservation has your passport number. You need LifeLock because your personal info is in endless places that can expose you to identity thieves. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Save up to 40% with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done. This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Still getting around to that fix on your car? You got this. On eBay, you'll find millions of parts guaranteed to fit. Doesn't matter if it's a major engine repair or your first time swapping your windshield wipers. eBay has that part you need, ready to click perfectly into place for changes big and small. Loud or quiet, find all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. But you already know that. eBay. Things, people, love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Autopsy Initiative provides a second autopsy free of charge for victims' families who have lost their loved ones due to a police-related death. The services offered through the initiative include the completion of a second autopsy, disclosure of preliminary findings, and a final autopsy report. A police-related death is when an individual is harmed by police officers using deadly force, which results in an individual's death. Police-related death includes in-custody deaths, including those that arise during contact with law enforcement officers during arrest, pursuit, booking, transport, or incarceration. The Autopsy Initiative has a team of board-certified pathologists on call. An autopsy request may be completed by anyone with a close relationship with the victim, which may include the victim's spouse, partner, relative, close friend, or lawyer. To request a free second autopsy for a victim of police violence, please visit knowyourrightscamp.com. That's knowyourrightscamp.com. Then click on Autopsy, then click on Request. At KBLA, we believe in justice for victims of police violence. We say their names, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We knew you'd stick around.
Talk Radio.
Welcome back to KBLA Talk 1580.
I'ma say it's all about you.
It's all about you.
Drew down in the house with my boy Piznock, you know what I'm saying?
It's all about you.
Yeah, I'ma say it's all about you, but you know I'm lying now. Yeah.
You probably took it as the last trick. Wanna laugh at how I got my caught up with the spam? Thinking I had it, but she had me in the long run. It's just my luck, I'm stuck with the wrong one. Wise decisions based on lies we live in. Scandalous times, this game's like my religion. You could be rolling with the thug. Instead you with this weak scrub looking for some love in every club. I see you staring like you want it. Well, baby, if you got it, better flown it. Let the liquor help you get a bonus. I'm still tipsy from last night. Bumping the walls as a pose. Addicted to the family. fast life. I try to holler, but you tell me you take it. Saying you ain't impressed with the money you make. Guess it's true what they telling me. Fresh out of jail, life's hell for a black celebrity. So that's the reason why I call. And maybe you with it. Fantasies of a sweating, can I hit it? Addicted to the things you do, but still true. What I'm saying, boo, is this is all about you.
KBLA Talk 15. I see the same. Happy birthday, Tupac. It is a messy Monday, and we're joined by the founder of Lifeholik. He's got the hat on. You can see it if you're on YouTube. Captain Tyrone Davis. I asked you about communication. In the context, you have this man talk thing. Y'all do your men being vulnerable and talking to each other thing. And it sounds powerful. But if men are trained to keep their feelings in and not be transparent, how do we best communicate with you? And what are your rules of communication in relationships?
Well, men, because we're taught, if you will, to suppress emotion, it is, some people say, how are you going to get men to talk? I've talked to some of my lady friends and told them about it and asked them to invite their male friends. And it's like, oh, you got your hands full. You know, that's a challenge. Well, I choose not to view it as a challenge. I choose to view it as an opportunity, right? And what's needed is because they're in fear of doing something different than they've always done, right? Because I think somewhere in the psyche, we figure if we're changing something, that implies that we've been doing it wrong all this time. So what I do is invite people, and the people who want to come, right? And afterwards, we have such an amazing time, like at the 3 workshops we had, and people tell their friends. It's a ripple effect, right? And it's more about, for me, it's more about the connection than it is about the numbers, right? People were very vulnerable, and they saw that it was safe. And I do a quick poll afterwards to see how everyone felt and how it was. And everyone said it was great, and they want to do more. In fact, a couple of people said that they wish it was longer because they're only two hours at a time right now.
So you are extending it, right? You said every other Tuesday you're going to do something?
Yes. We're going to be starting on July 1st. We're going to start having man talks, or mental moments, if you will, every other Tuesday in the month of July, starting at July 1st. And we'll have it up on the website because it was just confirmed last night. We'll have it up on the Lifeholik website. And all are welcome, just come with an open mind and open heart, and just come and we'll do what we can to help open your mind and your heart, because it's a synergy. Everyone in there is kind of like, there's some significant value in community. Like, we meditated as a group, and I asked people about how it was for them, and relative to when they meditated on their own, they said, oh, I like doing it in community because it's you feed off of people's energy.
Yeah. I've always imagined that when men get together on their own, like your man talk, and that some of these rites of passage programs, my child did Magnificent Men, things like that, that they talk. I always imagine y'all talk when it's y'all, and it feels specifically safe. But that doesn't mean that it's going to be the same in a conversation around a relationship or a situationship, or that adult conversation you're encouraging even around a hookup.
Right.
So, what are your rules? You have rules in communication with potential or current romantic partners?
Yeah. So I guess, if I don't call them rules, or I guess they are, but ways of being, right? It's to live, to live authentically, right? And to communicate, you have to operate with integrity, love, trust, and it takes courage, because courage is the ability to do things in spite of the unknown factors, if you will,
right?
Or even if it is scary. Right.
Yeah, especially if it's scary.
Right. Even if it is scary. Excuse me. But for me, I just choose to be transparent and honest. Okay. Because I think I owe you that. Right. And I would expect the same from you. And all I can control is what I can control. So I operate a lot of my mindset and ways of being and communication are based on the principles of the book, The Four Agreements. And another one of the books is The Untethered Soul. And the Four Agreements is titled The Four Agreements, the Toltec Guide to Self-Mastery. So, and the four principles are to be impeccable with the word. Basically, you don't use your words to speak ill of others. You also use the word to be, operate with integrity, right? And authenticity. Another principle is to not take things personal. That's a big part of communication too, because if I'm talking to you in love and I say something, and I say something and you take it personal, then we're going to have a problem on our hands, or vice versa. You know what I mean? Because we have to work on not taking things personal and just listen to what the person is saying. And thirdly is to make no assumptions. And lastly, and most importantly in my mind, is to always do my best. Because if I'm always doing my best and I fall short or miss the mark, at least I will know that it's not due to lack of effort on my part. So I'm always trying to be the best me for me, like I said, so that I can be the best me for we. And if everybody operates that way, we can't go wrong. And you also have to give yourself grace. We also have to give ourselves grace. But we're walking around a lot of times. We're leading with ego instead of love, right? And I think that our ego masks our fears. So we're going to walk around as if nothing is bothering us, but we know it is, okay? But we don't address it because we're worried about that second fear, which is fear of judgment. We don't want the fellas to look at us like, oh, man, you getting played. Oh, you falling for her? I mean, like,
ego masks fear, so it's not just the fear of getting your heart broken, it's the fear of looking stupid.
Oh, yeah.
That's the fear of rejection, maybe.
Right. So there's two major fears that we address in Man Talk, and one is fear of the unknown. If we don't know the outcome of a conversation or a situation, we tend not to engage. That's that victim mindset, right? So we're speculating that I spoke about before, right? That's one fear. And if you think about it, when we're kids, we're scared of the dark, right? And then we got taught about the boogeyman, right? So the other fear is fear of judgment. We walk around with ego, and I've done it before. A guy was complaining about his baby's mom, and she did something that wasn't cool. And he started calling all kind of names and so on and so forth. And I said, it's okay to say she broke your heart, bro. And we don't do that because that's the truth of the matter. But because of the way we're programmed, we can't say that because that would be less manly, if you will.
So, okay. We're going to go to Brian calling us from. I had a follow-up question, and I know you like follow-up questions, but I'm going to Brian because I want to hear what the brother has to say. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning. Good morning. Mr. DiPrima, thank you for having Captain Davis on. This is a real powerful message to not just black men, but all men, and I just wanted to say thank you. And thank you, Captain Davis, for what you're doing in the community. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for that acknowledgement. Appreciate it.
Some affirmation there.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. So if you're talking about Don Miguel Ruiz, that's the guy who wrote the Four Agreements. I read it many years ago. Maybe I shall review it. But I remember when he talks about don't take things personally, and I don't remember it that well because it's been a while since I read it, but I remember it sounded really hard. It seems even more difficult in the context of a romantic relationship or a love relationship. Nothing is more personal than that. How do you not take it personally?
Well, first, you said it seems hard. And,
it does seem hard.
That's relative because I believe that how hard or easy a thing is directly related to how bad we want it. So with that, it can be challenging, if you will, right? But the way I approach it is I've learned to create what I call graceful boundaries, right? And graceful boundaries help me manage my expectations in relationship. So you don't want to take things personal, because if you take things personal, you develop an emotional attachment. And emotional attachments are often followed by emotional reactions, right? And when we react on emotion, it sometimes compromises our logic, even in a positive sense, right? Even in a positive sense, but we're talking about the other side now. But so what I tend to do, if something didn't work out, I don't want to have that emotional reaction, because if you have an external reaction, I'm going to tell you off in X, Y, Z, and the other, and that can be catastrophic. On the opposite of that, I'll have an internal reaction, which can lead to ruminating thoughts, anxiety, depression, and things of that nature. So what I tend to do is merely acknowledge what I'm feeling and get to a point where my emotions are in check. I practice breathing techniques and all that, really.
Where the yoga comes in.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a real thing. But I take a yoga breath or two and slow down. And then I ask myself, is this really worth a conversation? And if it is, then I'm going to have a conversation with an objective in mind. I'm first going to give you grace in knowing that it's not personal. Even if it is, you say my name. Hey, Tyrone, you did X, Y, Z. You ain't da-da-da-da. Right? Okay, that's what you said. And I'm very slow to respond. But I'm going to reframe it to say and give you grace in saying that you operated according to the fourth agreement. Whether you read the book or not, you did the best you could in that moment. Right?
Right, yeah.
That's the graceful part. And then once my feelings are in check, I'm going to have an objective conversation. And my whole objective is to let you know how our interaction impacted me, right? Not to make you wrong and me right, but to let you know. And how you respond to that conversation will determine how I manage my expectations moving forward. Okay, so I won't give you the space to hurt me again, if you will, depending on how you respond to that. So if I say, hey, I didn't think it was cool when you said you was going to do such and such and you didn't, you let me down. And if you came at me with, oh man, quit tripping, you too sensitive, da, 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 right? And I'm like, okay, cool, no problem. I won't have that expectation of you again. It happens in business all the time. I know somebody that's very good at making T-shirts and so on and so forth, but he's horrible at follow through and doing what he said he's going to do. All you're doing is teaching me how to respond to you. And so it is with relationships, right? Conversely, if you were to say, Tyrone, I didn't think about it from that vantage point. Okay, I apologize and I'll do better. Then it's like, okay, we're good because you owned it and you just had a human moment. That's all. But if so that's up to me to make the choice based on the information. And the only way I'm going to get the information is to communicate, right? That's what works for me. And you don't always hit it right, get it right. Like I'm not walking around like a Buddhist monk. I do have feelings, but I'm not easily triggered either though, but some people are. And there's a reason for that too. So I'm a guy that's curious about why I am the way I am. And that's how I started on my evolutionary journey, trying to be the best me that I can be.
Indeed, and it's not that messy. It's a messy Monday, but somehow it's not feeling too messy. That's okay, though.
Sorry.
We don't have to be messy all the time. Captain Tyrone Davis is my guest. 800-920-1580. If you want to weigh in, question, or just fuel the conversation, you're invited. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
Every mother deserves a healthy and joyous pregnancy and birth, and every baby deserves to thrive. That's why the Los Angeles County Abundant Birth Project is here. The Abundant Birth Project is a guaranteed income program that provides cash during pregnancy to pregnant individuals at the highest risk of preterm and low birth rate babies. Although program enrollment has closed, our commitment to Black joy and thriving continues. Through tailored services that foster mental well-being and community-based resources, we provide care and support during pregnancy and after the baby is born to help build brighter futures for our families. Join us in celebrating abundant births in LA County. For more information, please visit abundantbirthproject.org. abundantbirthproject.org. It's never too early to start talking about money in realistic ways with your kids. JP Morgan Chase navigates how to educate your kids now about creating long-lasting, healthy money habits. Whether your kids are in elementary school, high school, or college, now is a great time to start a conversation about ways to create healthy money habits as they grow, ultimately benefiting their financial future. Talking about money in a realistic way to support your kids' lifestyle and dreams, your first banking account geared towards high school or college. It's never too early. Explaining the basics, what you earn and what you spend, building financial confidence starts with getting organized. Learning and practicing vital money skills now will stay with them for life. Tools they will have to stay on top of their finances and achieve their goals. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase. Are you ready to play? Then jump into the LA 84 Foundation's free Playday Block Party, a community celebration for all ages, including live music, dancing, LA's pro sports teams, great local food trucks, plus special giveaways for you to take home. Enjoy an exciting, fun-filled day for the entire family. Join on Saturday, June 28th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at 2141 West Adams Boulevard. To register, go to la84.org. We'll see you Saturday, June 28th at LA 84 Foundation's free Playday Block Party.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you that we keep us safe. Every girl deserves a chance to shine. That's the belief behind Forgiving for Living, Inc. Since 1999, this organization has been empowering at-risk girls ages 13 to 18, helping them overcome behavioral and mental health challenges. Founder Wendy Gladney's personal journey inspired the mission to give girls hope and purpose through the power of forgiveness. Through their ambassador program, workshops, and annual conference, Forgiving for Living has touched over 3,000 young lives, providing mentoring, life skills, training, and tools for building self-esteem and confidence. You can make a difference. Visit forgivingforliving.org to donate, volunteer, become a mentor, or find help for a young girl in need. Forgiving for Living, Inc., building brighter futures for young girls. Visit forgivingforliving.org today. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Well, these polymers aren't as flexible as batch K3.
Researcher Laurie is stretched thin.
Did you get the vulcanization analytics from V66? Wait, are these rubber scores from last week?
She needs to hire new lab technicians so she can bounce back into her old self.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Our matching platform lets you spend less time searching and more time connecting with candidates. Redeem your $75 credit at Indeed.com/credit. Terms and conditions apply.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
It's a messy Monday, and Captain Tyrone Davis is with us, sharing his not very messy way of doing things, which is great. Let me ask you this, because you said you have a conversation with someone, if it's worth the conversation.
Right.
And then you let them know how it impacted you, rather than blaming them or making them wrong.
Exactly.
I remember Ian Van Zandt said, do you want to be right, or do you want to have a relationship?
Oh, right. Right, absolutely.
Do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy? But what if they lied to you? What do you do then?
If they lied to me,
yeah.
You mean, do they get a conversation?
Do they get a conversation? Do they get a second chance?
They get a conversation, but they don't get a second chance, because then I'll start playing back everything you ever said. Because if you lied to me, this might just be the one that I caught you in.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So you have a one-strike policy when it comes to untruths?
Yeah. Yeah.
Miles looking like, yeah, me too.
Yeah, because, I don't know who you're going to be tomorrow. Right. I mean, you could tell me, and then you start rethinking stuff, and then you start playing the Rolodex in your head where some things may have been questionable. Oh, you said you was going to be here on this day at this time, and you weren't, but you were delayed, and you said you were sick. But, people start doing that, and we start writing our own story, and I'm good. I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, I think most things you can have a conversation about. people make mistakes, but because I'm going to be truthful with you, I expect you to be truthful with me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's a lot to ask, but apparently sometimes it is.
Yeah.
You mentioned, we only have a couple minutes here, but
Mhm.
I have to circle back to this. You mentioned that we see flags, and red flags are a big thing on the internet,
Mhm.
but we see flags, examples of things we ignore.
Right. Things we ignore is how a person, like if you're not getting what you need, that's what I mean by flags. If you're not getting your needs met, and they have to be, whatever they are, they're important to you, right? And if you're not getting those needs met, then you have a choice to make. You can have, I believe in having a conversation, because again, it's not fair to hold people accountable for information they don't have. Hey, I don't like when you do this, that, and the other. Like, I could never be with a woman who smokes, period, right? So if you're smoking, then I love you. We good, but we just ain't gonna be together. I mean, and it's not cut and dry. I know my presentation is kind of direct, but anyway, that's.
I mean, it is what it is,
It is, but I can do that, or I can BS you, and then, well, actually, I couldn't because I'm not built like that. But some people, they get lost. The message gets lost in the words, But all in all, in relationship, I think what's most beneficial is that if people take an introspective look, because it ain't always that man. It's not always his fault, and it's not always her fault. Sometimes it's your fault because you got some unhealed stuff, and that's your responsibility. Nobody is going into a relationship trying to be the fixer.
Yeah, that's a whole syndrome.
It
but
is.
Right, and to your point, we all have responsibility to do the work on ourselves, which would really heal the rift that's happening online, which I think is mostly online between men and women,
the
black
gender
women
war.
and
Yes.
black men
Yes.
and black women particularly. I think it's very online.
Yeah.
But if we would all look at our own part in
Yeah.
what is happening, then maybe we could end that war.
Right. I 100% agree. And I think what else is not good is we have a tribe that supports our foolishness. Like, I don't get down with people like that. Like, my circle is super tiny, right? And it's getting smaller by the minute. But those people are true. They're going to call me on my stuff because accountability is one of my core values, personal accountability, responsibility. And sometimes I don't see my stuff, but if somebody brings it to my attention, guess what? I'm going to look at it and address it.
Lifeholik.com.
Lifeholik.com. And you can follow us on Instagram at Lifeholik.
With a K.
With a K. And
All right.
we'll be having mindful moments with Man Talk.
Starting July 1st.
July 1st.
Okay, we got to leave it there. Tavis Smiley's up next. He's got a great show for you on a Monday. Like my mama used to say, history is now, and we are making it together. Until tomorrow, one love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Alexandria Ikamoni with BIN News Now. After what's being described as the biggest and most intense manhunt in the history of the state, federal agents, state and local police in Minnesota captured a suspect in a political assassination over the weekend.